Hi. Yeah, we did a lot wrong. I'm Mike Fox. I'm a property owner and a business owner in Oak Park. We have about 15 buildings in the village itself. We also own and operate the Carlton Hotel and the restaurant Barclays American Grill. Our downtown area, our business district, the central business district, is called Downtown Oak Park, and it really just encompasses 4 square blocks. Oak Park, of course, is very different than here. We're very dense compared to Hinsdale. About half our housing stock is multifamily, half is single family. I started on the board there in 1996. I was on the board for about 15 years. I was president for about 12 of those years. And when I first started, I remember talking about parking. You know, every meeting we meet, parking, and I could tell that they had been talking about parking for many years before I ever got there, and parking would dominate our conversation. It got to the point where we would get to the end of a meeting and we wouldn't talk about parking, and someone would be like, wait, we didn't talk about parking yet. And everyone's like, oh my God, we didn't talk about parking. We don't have enough time because it's such a big conversation, and everybody has a different opinion as to how it impacts them. Everybody always wants the same thing, though. They want a parking spot in front of their store open all the time for their customer, but yet their employee is parking in that spot right in front of their store, and they won't tell their employee that they shouldn't park there because they're going to lose that employee. I'm sure you guys don't ever have that problem here. Our biggest problem by far was the meter feeding by the employees. We have about 150 spots in the streets and about another 150 in surface parking. It has since grown. But at the time, that's about what we had. We have 2 parking garages, one with 340 spaces, the other with, at the time, we had about 800 spaces, which is now 1,200. 2 big garages. One is massive. Now, the 1,200 car garage doesn't typically get full, especially the top level, because it's about 6 stories up. So in 2008, the village decided to do a study, imagine. And it was done by the Walker Group. Very good study, actually. Now, they came out and said, hey, you know, just as what's going on here with Lindsay, we had a disparity between our rates in the street and our permits in the garage. We knew that, and so, but they came up with a recommendation on rates. Our rates at the time, we were as low as 25 cents as you in some of our meters. We had raised it a few years earlier to 50, big one. They recommended we would go to $2. They say that your most convenient spaces should be the highest priced, and you should price it so the spaces are able to turn. You don't want to have a higher than 85% occupancy, all the stuff that you have to agree with. We probably had at least 30 to 40% of our spaces taken up by employees. We would see the salon owners, same thing. The one girl would go out with a bucket of quarters, she'd shove them in, and then fill up all the, like line them up, and it was our tenant. And they would look at me, and I'd be like, okay, I talked to the guy, and he's like, I know, it's me, but what am I supposed to do? Like, I don't know, kill him. I don't know what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to tell him not to do it. And so, but there, he's like, you ticket them. And so we would hammer on the tickets. And then, of course, the ticket person doesn't know a customer from a non-customer, so they're ticketing everybody. And so we would get screamed at because of that. So it's like, okay, he's up. The village is like, well, we love this because we make lots of money on the tickets. It's like, we got to relax because we're getting hollered at. So they did. They calmed down on that. So when the Walker study came up with this idea, hey, let's go to $2, obviously not everybody was on board. I was not necessarily on board, but I was like, okay, let's give it a go. The village decided not to go to $2. They went to $1.50. But that was going from 50 cents to $1.50. You know, it's a big increase, percentage-wise, if you think about it. And so the day it went in effect, people went crazy. I mean, burn at the stake, village trustees, everything. And it didn't stop. You think, okay, it's going to calm down after a while. It didn't. And so we would get it from the customers. The residents would like call in and scream at the trustees. People would go to the village board meetings. We were there. I was president, so I had to go. And, I'm thinking to myself, thank God it's not just me, because if it was just me, they would say, Mike, it's just you. We don't care about you. But it was all the residents too. And so they decided to pull back, and they went back to $1. One of the things they did too, that the Walker study recommended, is changing our hours. We'd always been 9 to 6. And so they changed it to 8 to 8. And the 8 to 8 was painful too, because it was very difficult for people to go, and people were very accustomed to going to a restaurant and either putting in a little bit of money or not a lot of money. And so they decided to scale that back to 9 to 6 again. And to be honest with you, when they scaled it back, when they went from $1.50 to $1, nobody complained. It was like all of a sudden everything went away. And our parking lots were typically, especially the surface lots, when we were at 50 cents an hour, they were packed all the time. I mean, you could not get in. When we went to $1.50, it was like a ghost town. I mean, and of course, it's the problem that Lindsay said, is you don't want that problem, because you're thinking, oh, all the shoppers are gone. We have scaled it back to $1, and now it's been at $1 for several years. It's okay. We don't really get any complaints. I think part of our problem too, when we went to $1.50, is Chicago at the time they were charging 25 or 50 cents an hour in the loop. And so now that they have they have changed, and they're at a much higher rate. The loop is $3-4 an hour. Even the outlying areas are $2 an hour, and they have gone, obviously the parking system that they sold, and they hate that, but people are now more accustomed to paying more for convenient spots. Again, we operate a business too, so I don't hear it just from our tenants. I hear it from our customers too. People are expectant of it. Nobody really seems to have a problem, especially knowing, and me as a customer, I don't have a problem going somewhere if at least I know there's a spot there. I don't mind spending the $1 an hour. I expect to spend it. I come to your area a lot. I have 4 kids. I live in Elmhurst. And so my kids go to the Catholic school here, and we come here and get beat up by St. Isaac Joe's every so often. I have a high school that gets beat up by Hinsdale Central every once in a while. So for the past 2.5 years, and about 2.5 years ago too, we changed our banking relationship to Hinsdale Bank. So I bank here. And so I have to come here and beg them for money every so often. And so I remember coming here a couple years ago. I did pull right there. I did find a spot. It was pretty full, the street, but I do find a spot there. I pulled change out of my pocket. I put a quarter in the meter, and I got an hour, and I laughed. I'm like, nice. I had an hour. I couldn't believe it. I expected to keep jamming it in there like I have to do in Oak Park, and I didn't. I'll be honest with you, I really expected to pay more. I felt like I was going back to, Mayberry or something. It was better than free, because it was only a quarter. And so I come here a lot as a customer because of the pickup, drop-off, and all that stuff. As a customer, when I see a meter, I certainly expect to pay more than 25 cents for an hour. If there's 2 hour, obviously a lot of towns in Elmhurst too has 2 hours. I don't know how they do it, but they have 2 hour free parking, but they're filled all the time. The $1 an hour really has settled in nicely for us. It has been a non-issue now for a few years. The difference with us too, though, is the Village of Oak Park is looking for money. Their main driver, our main driver, is balance of supply-demand. As a Downtown Oak Park board member, the village is like, yeah, we like that, but we also do like the money, because the parking garages are very expensive to maintain. I also happen to be on the committee that helps set the rates for those, and I see how expensive they are, especially since our parking garages are now getting older, and they need a lot of maintenance. And so the village is trying to have that balance between maintaining these garages and then charging on the street, because of course charging on the street to maintain that is nothing, but the garages are big money. So they do look at the fee income as being something that's nice. So, but they understand that they can't charge, they really are not going to charge any more than $1 an hour until we get the credit card meter machines, which we don't have. Ours are still by quarters because people just don't carry that many quarters. What I would recommend is when you start to change it, you have to tell your merchants to carry a lot of quarters because for a while people aren't going to be accustomed to it. But now people are. Our surface lots are all the pay by meter, pay by space, which is very convenient. And yes, people for a while kind of have to figure out how to do it, but I think your one lot is that way. And so to me that works fine. It is the kind where you just put in the meter, the space number, right, and then you can leave. It's not like Chicago where you have to put the actual sticker in your car. You have to go back to your car. It's nice. That's how ours is too. We do not have the system yet where it will text you, but I know that's becoming very popular. We didn't want to dive into that yet until people worked out the kinks because it's money. It's a lot the meters that take the credit cards are very expensive too, and so you want to make sure the technology works. And I guess now it does. It's been in effect now for 5-6 years. That's all I have. Parking we talk about forever, and everybody has a different problem. That's always a situation. It's customers, employees. We also had a big problem with commuters too because downtown Park is right by the L and the Metro. We are a central hub for both lines, and so that's why we have the 1,200 car garage, because that's where we push most of our commuters who we love and hate at the same time. And so because a lot of businesses thrive off of them, coffee in the morning, something at night, but we want our shoppers too for the middle of the day be able to park. So we try to push them all there. Same with the employees. We push them to the garage and we try to push them to the top levels with, it's not free parking, but it's almost free. It's like 15 cents an hour. And the idea for that is for the employer to pay for it because the part-time employee, they're the toughest one to push off the street because they come in for 3-4 hours and they're getting paid $10 an hour. How are they going to, they're not going to, they're like, I can park right here for 3-4 hours and then go home. I get that. So why not provide them free or almost free parking that's just 2 blocks away? It's like, all right, instead of, especially if you raise your meter rates in the street, it's like, all right, instead of spending $5 here, I'll do free, I'll walk 2 blocks for free. It's okay. And that does work. People do that. Not everybody, but people do it. That's what I got. Like, I can go on. Any questions for anybody? Our organization is very different in downtown Park. We have an SSA, who we actually have staff, and we have a regular board meeting, and so we do get a lot of input, which is good and bad. And so there is no perfect solution for the parking, but I must admit, raising the rates in the street, as much as a lot of people didn't like it, it has worked out okay. Thank you.